So the old list, the old mailing list we used to throw on a piece of parchment paper, it's old. It's on a piece of parchment. And it had two big parts. It had customers in your database. By old, I didn't mean elderly. I meant previous customers. These are people that have proven to be friendly. They've given you business before. They've paid you money. So they're likely to give you more business. That's true, more so than others, than other non-customers. And the other list would be, the other portion of this list would be your potential customers that you had on a purchase list that you paid your clearinghouse for. This is what your clearinghouse sets up for you based on your parameters, based on your geography, etc. Again, out with the old and in with the new. Here's the idea with the process. Every term, we're going to take every person like a pebble and decide which pile they should go into. Are they a good candidate? Are they a bad candidate? And every term, this process can go through the same piles again. It's going to smash them together, the good and the bad, and let them go through the process again and sort them yet again. So in one term, you could end up on the bad list. In the very next term, you could end up back on the good list, depending on your own characteristics. What this does is this means that the history and most recent information you have about people, you are using to decide whether they should get your brochures. And as I said, the next term it just goes through this process again. It just looks at each little pebble and decides which pile should it go into. On top of that, it also tells you how many. Doing this process automatically tells you how many pebbles you should have in your good pile. It does it for you. And I want to talk about ROI some more because it's so important to how this is done. Remember, ROI is the amount that you profited divided by the amount that you spent. It's this little percentage that you get, this percentage number. We're going to tweak this ever so slightly to come up with this formula that determines good ROI. What this reads is your good ROI is at least as large as the revenue you generated from a particular marketing effort minus the budget for that marketing effort, that is actually more realistically the amount that you actually spent on it, divided by the marketing budget. If you keep this in hypotheticals, say, what is my programs or what is this the revenue goal for this marketing effort minus the budget that's allotted to it divided by the marketing budget, and you give yourself an ROI threshold. This formula will tell you what a good ROI is and what a bad ROI is. We can do the math here. Let's say you have a program that your goal is for this program is to reach $100,000, and you're going to spend $20,000 doing it. The formula tells you that you should not waste your time on ROIs of less than 400%. Pretty straightforward. If a carrier route in the past term did not meet this requirement, it would go into the bad pile. If it was above 400% or above, it would go into the good pile. You see how this? You can see how the ROI is the least understood metric because there's so much more information that's contained within this one little metric, this one little ratio. And using this idea of how we can determine what a good ROI is and what a bad ROI is, we're going to build a smart mailing list. I'm going to put the smart mailing list on a sticky note. I'm going to put this on a sticky note because sticky notes are agile. You can pick a sticky note up and you can put it somewhere else. It doesn't matter what program you apply this process to. It doesn't matter what table you put a sticky note on or what wall, as long as you don't move it too much, I guess. It will move to whatever environment you want to put it in. And unlike parchment paper, the parchment will crumble every time you try and pick it up and apply it to something else. That's akin to, I'm going to mail our brochures to people I think are going to sign up for my financial planning certificate. And using that same list to market dance classes or to market Excel classes is probably not going to work as well as you would like. But the smart mailing list doesn't worry about that. You don't have to worry about those little nuances. The smart mailing list is going to be built in three parts. I'm going to go for each of those with you. And all of these parts are based on probabilities. It's based on the likelihood that someone becomes a customer. We're going to fill in the sticky note, by the way, with each of those parts as we did with the parchment paper. Good news is that these probabilities and the likelihood that someone becomes a customer of yours is already stored inside of your registration system. The probabilities change over time because the needs of your customers change over time and the needs of people in your area change over time, all of the time. But the smart list is remember, it's a process. So it's self-improving and it's self-updating. It's going to update along with the people that are moving or job requirements are changing, what have you. The first part of the smart mailing list is very similar to the first part of the old, which is your former customers, your previous customers. So you know that old business is good to market to because they've already paid you money. You've already been able to wow them with your awesome curriculum. They're very likely to come back and take more of your classes. We're going to do the same thing. We're going to add a piece to the smart mailing list that parallels that, but we're going to do it in a smarter way. The question is, how far back should we look? I've heard some programs look back 2 years. Some just send to the entire database of customers that they've had. But looking at your registration system, you can very easily determine what the probability of a customer coming back for a class is based on the last time they took a class. And here I'm going to show you what the chart typically would look like. Across the bottom axis, you can see there I have ranges of time. So we're looking at all the customers whose last class was within a year from today. The next block to the left there is 1 to 2 years away from today. Looking back again 2 to 3 years, 2 to 3 years ago was their last class, etc. All the way up to sending the possibility of sending to people who haven't taken a class in 4 years or longer. And this is what the curve is going to look like. Something along these lines. That people who've taken a class within the last year are incredibly likely to take another class. I can't tell you what the number is because it's going to vary by program. It's going to vary by school. It's going to vary by geography. It's going to vary by the set of offerings that you have, what have you. The nice thing, of course, is, as I said, this is all inside of your registration system. It's all there. You have the ability to find this information. If you look back at 1 to 2 years ago, somebody taking a last class, there's a huge drop in the probability that person will come and take a class from you. And setting this up, this little model here, you can easily sort of design a cutoff the same way we did with a good ROI and a bad ROI. Instead of looking at the probability of coming for a class, the probability of getting a good ROI out of certain carrier routes based on how recently that carrier route has done business with you, how recently those customers have come back. You can project the ROI for a lot of these, giving you a much smarter way of choosing those customers based on recency. And that's the first part of the list. A little more work than last time, but remember, this is all inside of your registration system and automatable. The second stage of the smart mailing list process is going to be to refine the past purchase list. What I mean by that is, so you gave the formula to your clearinghouse, and you've done it for a while. You just said, blanket these zip codes, blanket these carrier routes, only send to people within 10 miles of our institutions, campuses, only send to people that are households that make a certain amount of money, what have you. Have you ever wondered which ones of those customers are throwing away your catalogs? And which ones are the ones that are actually coming to your class? In the ideal world, of course, you'd only send catalogs to people that would immediately go and register for your classes. Well, your clearinghouse knows who it sent catalogs to. Your old mailing list tells you who you sent those catalogs to, whether they were on a purchase list or a customer list. And the registration system is going to tell you who came. Put these two pieces of information together, and what you get is a smarter way to design a past purchase list. So the idea here is we look back a term, or back 2 terms, and we look at the carrier routes and their performance in recent history. And we determine whether or not their ROI was good or not. And we can use some forecasting and some trending to predict what their new ROI would be for a new mailing based on sort of the historical information. So I like this little image here of the garbage. I was just imagining all of the catalogs that one person was getting and how fed up they were with them, and they were just making a stack, just waiting to get back at you for all of the mail that you've sent them over the years. Let's not send to those people. So the second stage here of the smart mailing list was to refine that past purchase list. So the clearinghouse sold you a list. You bought a list from somewhere. Let's look back at it and make sure that it works. Let's improve it. Let's refine it. And that process is going to remove some carrier routes from who you send to next time, and that's okay, because we have one more piece to add to our smart mailing list process, to the output of this process. So it's okay to cut off some carrier routes, because this next piece may actually re-add them back in the future, as I mentioned with the 2 piles of pebbles. If you guys remember the image, every term we're going to reanalyze every little pebble and determine whether it's good or bad. So if you cut one carrier route off this term, you may re-add it the next term. It's completely likely and should work that way, because people change, lives change, people move, jobs change, employment change, and needs and demand change all the time.